Good afternoon and welcome everyone to Scotia iTrade's webinar. My name is Khalif Lyons, the Client Education Specialist with Scotia iTrade. I'm pleased to present to you today how to get started with Scotia iTrade. Just before we get started, let's take care of some housekeeping items and then we'll jump right in. So your sound quality should be good. However, you can always check this quality by clicking on the audio panel clicking on the sound check link in the audio panel. You can test your ID by doing this. Now, the setup window may be on your secondary screen if, in fact, you're using two monitors. Just keep in mind today, everyone will be muted for sound quality purposes. Now, if you're using your computer and you're experiencing any audio difficulties there, you can always switch over, give us a phone call, and just remember to use the telephone number you see on the GoToWebinar panel. Use your access code and the audio pin ID to get through to us here today. I've got a quick disclaimer to read to you. I won't read all of it, but nevertheless, Scotia iTrade does not provide investment or tax advice or recommendations. Nothing in the presentation that we're doing today should be construed as investment or tax advice or a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any security, or to follow any particular investment strategy. So the information that we're going to present today is strictly educational only, illustrative only, so there's no intent to advise or to recommend or to provide any sort of personal investment advice. So keep that in mind as we go through. Let's quickly review the toolbar features that we see here. The orange arrow that you see at the top of your GoToWebinar panel can be used to hide the control panel or to let it reappear. At times it might disappear, so you can just use that orange arrow to make it come back on the screen. You can also view in full screen mode as well if you need more space on the screen. The hand icon is on the GoToWebinar toolbar. You can click on that to notify me of a question or concern, but just keep in mind the question panel box would be probably more appropriate. Now, one of the things is I will be doing a Q&A session after the webinar, so some of the questions that you provide, I may just defer them to that session, unless, of course, the question is for clarification or something to that effect. So I will do my best to keep abreast of the questions that you may have on that. Thank you in advance. So today's session will be recorded. A link will be emailed to you tomorrow within one business day, say mid-afternoon. And now, if you don't get that link, you can always email me for a copy of the webinar at education@scotiaitrade.com. I'll provide that to you later on as well. You can also visit our YouTube channel. We've got a list, an archived list of webinars on our demand playlist. So you can always go to our YouTube channel. Just scroll to the bottom of the ScotiaITRADE.com website, and you'll see the YouTube link, and you can go there and see if there's any videos that you like there. Now, you'll also be able to download a PDF copy of this presentation. I'll be making that available at the end of the presentation. So on your GoToWebinar toolbar, there is a handout menu. When you click on that, it'll open up, and at the end of the webinar, it takes about 20 seconds or so. I will simply upload that so you can actually download it to review the webinar going forward. So as mentioned, my name is Khalif Lyons, and I'm the Client Education Specialist here with Scotia iTrade. I've been an options licensed brokerage professional for over 10 years, over many years, 20 plus years, but particularly in the adult education space for the past 10 years. So in my current role, I'm responsible for developing these types of webinars for you and facilitating these interactive learning sessions in an effort to help you achieve your financial goals. So today we're going to work together in terms of trying to get that done. So let's jump right in. Actually, you know, just before I do jump right in, I do note that there was a hand raised, and I did not quite get that. So if there was a question, if there's any question, just type those in the question box, and I'll have a look. I do note that there are some hands raised. So if you have a question or if there's any issues that you may be experiencing, just simply type that in the question panel box and I'll address it there. Thank you. So why are we here today? Well, mutual funds, margin accounts, equities, futures, cash flow, many different terminologies that one would have to get to know if you're getting started on your investment journey. Being a new investor or a trader can be overwhelming at times. So today what we're going to be doing is introducing you to Scotia iTRADE. So this webinar has been designed to familiarize you with our website and the online trading platform. Today we want to lay the foundation for your educational journey. And some of the questions that we're going to be answering today will be, what are some of the tips and tricks that we can use to find our way around Scotia iTRADE and the Scotia OnLine website? What are some of the tools and resources available that I can use to optimize my investment journey? Well, how can I place a trade? These are some really good questions to ask. What are the different price types when I'm trying to place my trade? And how can I view the holdings in my accounts? And also too, some questions around the Scotia OnLine tools. How can I possibly limit my losses and capture my gains? So as we navigate the platform today, you'll note that there's a learning curve. I'm going to try to help you to navigate that as best as possible, to flatten that a bit. So by the end of it today, you'll have a deeper confidence in terms of your investment journey. So one of the best learning experiences we've discovered is by going through our interactive learning module, Get Started with Your Account. In that module, you'll note that you'll be able to learn how to activate your ScotiaCard. You'll learn how to set up the online services. You'll also be able to look at the account settings, how to optimize that for your own particular purposes, and also how you can fund your account. So if you haven't yet gone through the steps, you can actually follow along as we go through this webinar today. However, I would highly recommend that you take a look at that Get Started with Your Account learning module and go through it, as it will actually answer a lot of the questions that you'll have for these. It takes only around 15 minutes or so, so it's a great place to start your journey. What I'd like to do is I'd actually like to launch a quick poll, and just to find out, to gauge how many people have actually gone through that learning module. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to launch the poll. Just give me a quick indication if you've actually gone through that or not. Let me just pop that in here for you. Okay, so I've actually launched the poll. Just give me a quick indication, clicking on the yes or no, as to whether you've used or not. Okay, we've got 70% or more have voted so far. Great, thank you so much. 86% have voted. Thus far, about a third of us have gone through the module. The remaining 2/3, not so much. So for those who have gone through that interactive learning module, I find that the webinar today will be a little bit more informative. But even for those of us who have not yet gone through it, there's still some amazing information you'll be getting today. And then, of course, once you go through the webinar or the learning module afterwards, you'll just get some additional clarification on that. So thank you very much for that poll. I'll let you see who've actually, no, I won't bother with that. I was actually going to try to release the results, but it's so yeah, I'm going to close this poll. I'm going to go back over to our webinar here. Bear with me a moment. I clearly shouldn't have gone into that at all. Here we are. Great. Sorry about that. So yeah, so the polls then, I've closed that poll. 33% has gone through and 67% have not yet. So thank you so much for that. Let's drill back down into our webinar session here. So today then, what we're going to be doing is, as an initial piece, I want to just go through some navigational tips with our ScotiaITRADE.com website for you there. So I'm going to actually go over to that the website right now. We'll walk through that just for a bit. Okay, so you should be seeing on screen the ScotiaITRADE.com website at this point. This is our landing page. So when you first type in ScotiaITRADE.com, this is where you'll be coming to on the About page for ScotiaITRADE.com. So we're going to just take a quick walkthrough on that right now. The website offers many resources to assist you, such as an FAQ, an overview of the commission and fees, and an education tab that allows you to become better informed. So as we walk through this, you'll see that a little bit more clearly. Under the About tab, if you simply click on the About and then click on the About once again, give it a few seconds and it updates, you'll see some informative information here for you. So basically, all the tools that you'll need for self-directed investing is right here at your fingertips. As you scroll through, we just sort of give you the features and benefits, some highlights of some of the tools that we have here at iTRADE, some of the reasons to join, quick overview of our commissions and schedule, and of course, to apply now. So that would be the first initial tab. Of course, under the About tab, there's many other information that you could look at, special offers, the platforms that we use, and of course, iTrade iClub, something that you might want to consider as you become more comfortable with your iTrade journey. Moving over to the investment type tabs, we do see that we list out all the different investment types, equities, ETFs, mutual funds, options, etc. By clicking on investment types, you'll get a quick summary of the various different types of equities, of investments, products that we have. By scrolling down, sustainable investing, equities, ETFs, mutual funds. So that's one good place as well too for you to review. Going over to the fees tab, of course, this is a very important one that you'll all want to find out about. There are the different programs that we have, but we want to just highlight for you that we do have some commission-free ETFs. We also have a special buck a bond, so we charge $1 per $1,000 worth of a bond. So it's a disclosed bond fee, and of course some incentives here for you. We talked then about the trading fees. Of course, our lowest commission is $4.99 for those who are trading 150 trades or more on a quarterly basis. The loyalty pricing, and then of course our general commission fees and the account fees. So I suggest, great place here to go and look and just educate yourself as to what the fees would be before you plunge in. The last tab that we have here now is the education tab. So basically, under the education tab, we have the Getting Started guide. This is the one I was indicating to you before. A good place for you to start is right here. Just give this a few seconds to upload. Nevertheless, as it comes up, you'll see that there is a download guide that you can click on and go through that. And it does answer some pertinent questions that you may have in terms of the beginning of your investment journey. But also, too, we talked to then some other learning modules that you might be interested in, interactive learning modules. Oh, here we are. So as you scroll down the page, we've got some investment tips here for you getting started. Here's the download guide I mentioned before. And then we've got some videos for you to start out. Order types. What are the different order types involved? And as we go through this webinar, you'll see that we'll touch on the different order types. But here's where you can actually go and get some more details on those, a short video, different investment choices, and of course the decisions, how to get to those decisions that you'd want to be making. Scrolling down further, if you'd like to have some additional resources, just complete this informational section here, and you'll be able to get some additional resources. And of course, what I want to present then is the webinars. We have a suite of different webinars that describes many different types of investment education. So this is a great place for you to go to. And of course, if you want to view the entire calendar, you click on the link, and it'll take you over to the investment calendar, which is also under the education tab. But here's a great way in which you can actually go and start that investment journey by learning more about the products and services that Scotia iTRADE has, and of course yourself setting up your own investment goals. So what I'd like to now do is to log into and take a look at the Scotia OnLine. This is a secure website. Once you're a client, this is where of course you'd go to log into. I've actually taken the liberties of logging in myself, but you would click on the sign in button here, and then it'll take you over to the Scotia OnLine or the Scotia OnLine website. So this is the landing page. This is my demo account. As you can see, there's not much money in there. But nevertheless, this is the landing page. You land on the Accounts tab, and of course the Account Summary, where you'll see a summary of all the brokerage accounts that you have, the the Scotia iTRADE brokerage accounts that you've got here. Scrolling down, you'll see any other bank products that you have. If you've got a Scotia Bank account, whether it be a GSE account, a mutual fund account, whatever accounts that you have will show up on this page. And then one of the other great things that Scotia iTRADE offers is the practice account. So I've opened up a practice account, but we'll speak to that in a bit as well. Great thing to do is to open the practice account and to actually use that then as your learning tool, how, you know, the different products and services, how one can do a trade. We provide $100,000 in Canadian, $100,000 in US. It's play money, but nevertheless, you can actually do real trades, real-time trades on this practice account without affecting anything. A great tool to learn. Even as we scroll a little further down, you'll see the Asset Allocation Optimizer tool. So as you begin your investment journey, here's one place then where you can begin to say, okay, well, you know, what should I be buying, but how should I allocate my investments amongst the different types, right? So here's a questionnaire that'll ask you about, you know, your risk tolerance, time horizons, etc. When you've answered those questions, then it'll suggest to you a sample asset allocation, which you can then use to start out your investment journey. And we'll speak to this a little bit more as we go through. All right, so now let's take a deeper dive into the actual platform. And what we want to do is want to start with the Quotes and Research tab here. And just before I do, what I'd like to be able to do as well is to launch a second poll just to see how many of us have used the Quotes and Research tab. Okay, so I've launched this poll here for you. Just give me a quick yes or no, whether you've used it or not. Thank you so much. I see some of us have completed. About 60% have completed. Thank you. Trending right now about 50%, 50%. 50% of us have used the Quotes and Research tab. 50% have not as yet. So what you'll note, though, is as we go through the webinar, there are a great many different tools involved in the Quotes and Research tab. A lot of information here. So even for those who have not yet used the Quotes and Research tab, this will provide you great information. For those who have used it, we'll hope that we can provide some additional tips and tricks on the Quotes and Research tab. So thank you. About a 50-50% split for those of us who have used and not used it. So thank you very much. I'm going to close that poll now and transition back over to the website. All right, so when you first go to the Quotes and Research tab, you'll note that you land on the Markets tab, and in particular on the Markets Overview tab is where we land on. So what's the kind of information that we can get on this particular tab? Well, the Markets Overview provides a snapshot of the Canadian markets, but it also allows you to delve down into the U.S. markets as well as into the international markets, the world markets as well too. Now, in terms of the information that you're seeing, you can dive a little bit deeper as my mouse scrolls away. So, for example, on the Canadian tab, as we scroll down, we do see the TSX Composite Index, the Ventures, and the TSX 60. And this is a 20-minute delayed sort of picture of where the markets are currently showing, with the trend as to where it's going. You can always delve into that a little bit deeper. As you go scroll down, though, you can see some news that's provided on the Canadian markets. So we just give you a quick snapshot here of some of the news. You can always get more news by clicking into it. And as you go even further lower still, one of the new tools that's now being offered by Scotia iTRADE is the Sustainable Investing tool. Now, on the Markets Overview page, you'll note that this tool is particularly new to the Canadian brokerage space. We are the first direct brokerage in Canada to provide this. Now, typically this tool is available only to institutional investors. Scotia iTRADE then has actually partnered with Sustainalytics to provide this amazing tool so that you can actually incorporate sustainable investing research into your actual decision making. So this is a great tool that you can use here as well. So scrolling further down, investing ideas, starting out, you can just go here, click through, read the information. Here's some great tips that you can use in terms of starting out your investing. Research, thestreet.com is one of them that have provided these great tools or this great information as to some of the initial thoughts that one could have in terms of starting their investments. And still lower on the page is the interest rates, commodities, and currencies for Canada. Dropping down, you can go also to the US as well to see what those are. Just a quick snapshot of what's happening out there. So you You've got some treasury bills here, government bonds, and of course prime rate. And as you know, prime rate went up. 295 here, still showing on our page, but it's currently 320. Scotia Trade change up to 3.20 today. So that'll update as well too. So a good place for you to kind of keep abreast. Now on the side, you'll notice that there are some widgets on the side. So here, if you are creating a watch list, you'll note that the symbols will populate here. One of the things Scotia iTRADE will do is, as you look up quotes, you'll note that the quote, the actual symbol automatically shows up in the watch list here on the side. We have what we call the My Recent Research Symbols. And it's a default list of all the symbols that you've typed in to get a quote on in the quotes and research. We just simply populate it here. So there'll be a list of some 20 different symbols here. If you want to change this, you can actually move this over to your actual watch list. But for now, you can't really change this particular setup. This is a default one. But we should be provided here for you so you can always see the last 20 or so stocks that you've clicked into. Scrolling a little bit further down, Scotia Wealth Management provides research, actual research commentary reports, daily edge reports, morning market comments, etc. Great place for you to do some actual in-depth fundamental research as well. And still lower on the page, we talk about the economic outlook. So we've got the foreign exchange, a global forecast, and a global view, and it's, that's updated quite regularly. But a good place to go to actually take a look and see what's happening in the overall economy. And still further down, the earnings calendar. For those who are looking at dividend investing, here's some great tools to have in terms of what are the stocks that are going to be providing dividends coming up, what are and the estimates and what the analysts are indicating on that. So great information is there as well. Okay, so what other submenus do I have available to me on this markets tab, of the quotes and research tab? We've got equities tab, the options, ETFs, mutual funds, fixed income, GICs, alerts, and watch lists. So quite a lot of information, far too much for us to go into for this one particular webinar, but suffice it to say, as you drill down, you'll be able to find some great additional information, some detailed information on equities, option trading if you're interested in option trading, ETFs, a great upcoming diversified way of investing, ETFs, mutual funds, fixed income, etc. Okay, so why would one want to use the quotes and research section? It allows you to learn more about the markets and make more informed decisions when trading. So let's dig down a little bit now in terms of symbol. How can I search? How can I search for a symbol? From the markets overview page right here, I can simply click onto the symbol box here. And what Scotia iTRADE has done is provided a smart symbol search for you. So all you would need to do is, if you know what the symbol is, you can simply type it in. And you'll know that in a drop-down menu, it'll provide you with all the symbols with that type, the character that you put in there. If you don't know what the symbol is, you can always type in the name. So I'm going to type in Scotia, for example. Wait for my spinning wheel to stop, and you'll note that it pulls up all the stocks or the companies with Scotia in it. And of course, I'm looking for the Bank of Nova Scotia. So that's one of two of the great ways, simple ways in which you can actually find a symbol, typing either the direct symbol, 3 or 4 letter symbol, or typing in the name of the company, and the smart search feature will actually do that for you and look it up for you. You'll also note too, if you're an options trader, you can get the equities quote, but you can also go over to the option chain directly from here to get some additional information on that as well. So once we've clicked into the symbol, it'll automatically take you over to the Equities Overview page when it populates here. So bear with me a moment. My computer is not as quick as I'd like it to be, but nevertheless, as it finishes its scrolling, it'll go over to the Equities Overview page and provide you some more detailed information on that particular stock that you've typed in. So you can add now. So here we are. So BNS is here on this page. So we get a real-time quote as it comes up. And keep in mind, it's a real-time quote, but it doesn't stream. So you'll have to update the quote either by going back to the quotes and research, typing in the symbol again, or clicking the F9 button. That'll also update your quote. But failure to say, nevertheless, keep in mind, it's not a streaming quote. So once you go in there, it's real-time. As of that time, you see here, it's 1:24 when we first clicked into it. So you'll have to refresh that. But here's what the information contains. The last trade, the change so far, the bid and the ask size, the volume, and of course the range on the day. The bid size. The bid, of course, is where you would sell your positions to. This is the best, where the best price that the buyer is trying to buy, and this, of course, is the lowest price at which someone is willing to sell. So this is the highest price at which someone is willing to buy, and the lowest price at which someone is willing to sell. If you want to buy the stock right now, you're buying from that person willing to sell. If you want to sell your stock, you're selling to someone who's willing to buy. And of course, the sizing is the number of shares that are available, and they do it in board lots. So it's 4 by 14. Here is going to be board lots of 100. So 4 times 100, 400 by 1,400 shares. You can also see level 2 quotes, so you can see what's behind. This is the best bid and the best ask, but what's behind that? You can go show level 2 quotes, and of course you'll see all the information that lurks behind that. One of the other beautiful things that Scotia iTRADE allows you to do is once you've seen your quotes, if you're satisfied and you want to do some trading, you can simply click on the buy or the sell button here, and it'll take you directly to your trade ticket to place your trade. So that's a great feature as well. And here's the level 2 quotes as well. So you can see that there are many different buyers available at consecutively lower prices, and many different sellers available as well too at consecutively higher prices. Scrolling down, we can see that we can see a quick chart on the stock and where it's been going for over the course of the day, 5 days, 1 month. You can change that charting as well. We've got some key stats here as well, the 52-week range. We've got the market cap, some dividend information, yield, shares outstanding. So those are interested in fundamental investing can take a look at those information here. And here then we've got now news specialized or contextualized to Bank of Nova Scotia, and of course the reports that we spoke about, but these reports are now specialized or are specific to Bank of Nova Scotia. Scrolling further down, we've got the sustainable analytics, the research from the sustainable investing crew that on the Bank of Nova Scotia in specific. So it says, Nova Scotia at this point is an average performer in the sustainable space, and it ranks it based on its industry, its global industry. Scrolling into that, it gives you the specific environmental, social governance scores, and of course you can pull up the report to see exactly what comprises that. Drilling down even further, it compares Scotia within its sector and the industry, the earnings information, and then it gives you the top 5 industry peers, Bank of Montreal, Nova Scotia, CIBC, etc. Just below that, the technical analysis. This is a great place that we'll be looking at. The technical analysis, it provides the different events for the Bank of Nova Scotia and where you'd want to be looking at. And of course, you drill down by clicking on more technical analysis to actually get more information on that. We'll talk to that in just a bit. Investing ideas as well, we specialize that straight to Bank of Nova Scotia, so you can see by pulling up a particular symbol, you can get an investing ideas on that particular symbol. And we've got, of course, screeners as well. We'll talk to screeners as well. Now, is there a way, we just spoke to that, is there a way we can filter equities? Yes, of course there would be a way that we can filter equities. And that's, of course, is the screener tool that we just spoke to. Under the Equities tab here is our screener tool. So let's drill down to that just now. Oh, just before I get to that, on this particular Equities tab here, you'll note that you can get information on the options. You can actually drill down and see more detailed charting information. Let's hold on and wait for that to pop up here. My screen is just a little bit slow. I do apologize. Nevertheless, you can see actually, so the chart here, you can't really interact with this chart. When we click into the charting here, you can then start to interact with the charting by inputting your own criteria to get more comparative tools on that. Here we go. Great. So this is the actual 5-day chart for Scotia as it comes up here, and I'll look at some of the criteria that you can actually interact with here. Oh, great, there we go. So this is the 5-day chart. It's got a line that you can actually take a look at. But failing to, you can compare it to the, to the different indices here. You can add more comparisons. So all the different major indices across the world, you can add that there. You can take a look at the fixed income for comparison as well too. Add those to the charts, commodities, and different currency rates. But going into the technical indicator tools, they talk to some upper indicators, trend bars, moving averages, etc., etc. If we were to go ahead and click on the simple moving averages, it'll update the chart with that information on it. And of course, there's different criteria that you can add to the chart. So here's the simple moving average, which is sort of a smoothing line to give you the trend of where the stock is going. Some of the other indicators, market breadth, the lower indicators, it'll tell you exactly how it's comparing to specific events on the TSX or the New York or the NASDAQ. If you want to look at some of the fundamentals, PE ratios, earnings, stochastics, MACDs, you can actually go into that as well to populate that on your chart as well. So the tool here is quite useful. There are company events that you can put, dividends and stock splits. There are different chart tools you can use, the trend lines or zoom in or out. And of course, you can actually use different charts, the mountain chart, candlesticks, etc. On that. You can save your chart or then you can reset the default chart. So this is a great feature to have. And of course, you can have different time horizons for the chart, all the way at 10 years, or you can customize that. We spoke to the news. You can actually get to detailed news. But here are some other features that you might be interested in. The Analyst Research. Scotia iTRADE does provide some great research using our own in-house Scotia Wealth Management research, but we also partner with other providers as well too. Once my screen updates. So that's the Analyst Research. We provide some great technical analysis tools from Recognia, which is quite powerful. They do some of the really heavy lifting for us in terms of the technical analysis. So here we go with the fundamental research. So some of the partners that we have, research team, Thomson Reuters, we've got, and they'll provide you with a recommendation. Research team is providing a buy for Scotia. Scotiabank is a sector outperform, of course. Thomson is a positive rating on that. And of course, then you can look at the reports to see what comprises that rating. We also have the Sustainalytics research as well that provides the reports here, an average for Scotia, and of course the report that goes along with that. And then we talk about the consensus from all the different researchers that we use. Nova Scotia rating comparisons. You can take a look at the comparisons or the consensus here. And then of course it's industry peer performance. And scrolling down, the research consensus by the industry ratings and rankings. So here, if you're looking at some fundamental research, this is a great place, or analyst research, my apologies. This is a great place for you to go to. Let's take a quick look at the technical analysis. And this is something that you may want to delve into a little bit after we've finished this webinar, because it's got quite a lot of information, quite a lot of very, very useful information, I have to admit. The tool is quite powerful. And I apologize for the slowness on my screen here. Also, too, after we take a look at the technical analysis, are some of the fundamental analysis tools that we can also use. But let's take a look here as we come up. Okay, great. Technical analysis for the Bank of Nova Scotia. It actually gives, the summary then. There are 16 technical events that Recognia has actually created for the Bank of Nova Scotia at this point, and they summarize that in short term, intermediate term, or long term. So some of the active events that we've got right now in the summary, as you take a look at the chart, it actually gives it to you the bearish events in red and the bullish events in green. Currently no bearish events, all bullish. Here's one here, if you kind of mouse over it, it kind of says the price crosses the moving average, the 200-week moving average, and so that's a signal in terms of technical analysis that one could look at. So all the events, daily, weekly. As we scroll down the list, they also provide a support and resistance. Support is found at 76.51, resistance found at 77.68. So if you're looking at getting in, you want to see where that support would be. If you're looking at getting out, well, you want to look at the resistance. Now, if you're holding the stock, here is where they suggest a stop price would be placed in terms of some risk management here to preserve your any gains that you've made. And then they list some different events on the side here that you can actually go through and take a look at to see. Now, they don't just relieve you at this, they actually give you some learning information here, how to actually analyze this information. We also provide webinars as well for this technical analysis by Recognia, which is quite informative. So you may want to take a look in the events calendar as to when those webinars are coming up and how you can then take advantage of that learning. And last tab we have here is the fundamentals tab, which will give you some of the information for the fundamental research for those who are interested in doing that kind of research. So just bear with me as that tab comes up. Great, here we go. Moving a little bit quicker now. So as shown in the summary tabs, we had we look at earnings, book value, cash flow, valuation information, profitability. This is basically the balance sheet, financial sheets for the company, summarized, of course. But it's great information for those who are looking at doing the fundamental research. Key stats, the balance sheet, cash flow, income statements are all here for those who would like to drill deep in doing that there. So we did talk then about screeners and how can we screen for this position. So I want to go up back to the main tab here, and I'll go to the screener tool. So I've clicked on the equities tab. It'll take me back up to the main tab. The main equities tab, we will see the screener tool. Just bear with me a moment while that comes back up. And we'll just take a quick look. We'll set up a quick screener so you can see how that actually works. And what I want to also be able to do is to talk about placing a trade here. We want to spend some time on placing a trade. One of the most important things in terms of equity screener, in terms of doing your investments. So on the equity screener tab, it's not typically this slow. So on the equity screeners tab, you can screen for the different type of equities that you may want to have. So by country, market cap, exchange, different exchanges, dividend yield, etc. There are many different ways in which you can actually screen for that information. So I want to do one with you here. So bear with me here. And we'll set up a screener today with you. Okay, so okay, got it here. So we'll take the country box here and we'll select Canada. Next, we're going to go with the exchange, and we're going to select the TSX. And basically, what I'm looking for is, the results of that. I have my stock in mind here, but we'll see what comes out with. So the exchange, and we'll take the TSX here. Then we're going to look at the analyst ratings down at the bottom here, and we're going to be looking at the upgrade, downgrade for 7 days. Upgrade, downgrade for 7 days. Then the valuation box, we'll take a look at the valuation box. Upgrade, downgrade. We want upgrade, downgrade for 7 days. We're going to look at the upgrades. And then, of course, under the valuation, we're going to look at the price earnings. And then the results then will be populated in the bottom. I'd also like to take a look as my screen flows around. So there's financial strength, management abilities. I want to take a look at the sustainable ratings as well too. And the overall ESG, I'm going to just go with the overall ESG, but you can actually take a look at controversies, the environment performance, etc. There's a lot of different criteria that you can actually take a look at through the environmental, social governance, the ESG sort of performance. And we're going to be taking a look at, we'll go with the average performers and see if there's any average performers in our lists. So in total, then we've got the Canada on the TSX upgraded within the last 7 days. Price earnings, let's go with the price earnings valuation of, say, we'll go 10 to 14. And then an average ESG performance. We have 3 stocks that fit that criteria. When we click on the view results here, we'll see exactly the results that we get. And then, of course, once you have that information, you can then take a look at the technical research. You can take a look at the fundamental research. You can drill down deeper into those companies to make a decision as to which one of those 3 companies that you would prefer. I'm still trying to provide those 3 solutions. But nevertheless, so here we are. So we've got 3 companies: Celestica, Great-West Life, and Power Financial Corp. And of course, that then would become the start of your research. You would just delve deeper into those 3 positions to see which of those you're more interested in delving into. So great thing is the Equities Screener tool. We also have an ETF and a mutual fund screener tool, which performs similar with this one as well. So that's something that you can take a look at. All right, so what I would like to now do is to, in the last little bit of time that we have here, I want to go over now to the actual trading side and see how we can actually place a trade. So let's do a quick last poll here just to see how many of us have placed a trade before or have used a trading tab before. I'm going to launch that tab here. I'm going to launch the poll. If you could just give me a quick indication. Great, thank you so much. Half of us have voted so far. Great. Currently trending about a 50-40 split, a 60-40 split, 50-50 split. Great. So many of us have voted. So it's about a 60-40 split that we've got here. Actually, it's closer to 50-50. So about 50% of us have used the trading tab and 50% have not as yet. So let's walk through that now and see if we can provide any other additional clarifications for those who have used it, and for those who have not used it, let's see if we can help you to use that tab as well. So in terms of placing a trade, when you first come to the trade tab, and keep in mind this is one of the ways, let me just close this poll, this is one of the ways in which we can place a trade. I'll go through this one first, and then we'll talk about the quicker means of doing the trade. So when you first come to the trade tab, you'll note that it's kind of blank. And what you want to do, the very first thing you want to do is select your account. Okay, so I'm going to go with the Canadian account because I have in mind I want to place a Canadian stock trade. And the reason why I indicate place the account, select your account first, is that oftentimes we see that trades do come across in the wrong currency or the wrong account. And of course, sometimes it can be very expensive if it can't be quickly corrected afterwards. So make sure you click on the drop down and get your correct account and the correct currency. I want to place a Canadian stock, so I'm going to choose my Canadian cash account. All right, and so it defaults to the Equities tab. And what I want to do is I want to place a trade on, we'll take a look at Apple. So the symbol for Apple is AAPL, but let's say, for example, you didn't know what the symbol was for Apple. This one won't do this smart feature drop-down for you, but you can also always use the magnifying glass here. It's a search tool where you can actually get the symbol and have it pre-populated for you. The best way, of course, is to go from the Quotes and Research tab where you can do all the analysis information, and then, of course, you can populate your trade. It'll pre-populate your trade for you, but we are here now. So from here, I'll type in my symbol, which I know is AAPL, and then I'm going to go over to my market. Now, Apple trades in the U.S. exchange, so we want to make sure I choose the U.S. exchange. However, if you're doing this in a registered account, this would default, to the U.S. account, correct. So just make sure you choose the correct market for that. Apple trades in the U.S. market. You'll note on the right side that a quote is provided. Now this quote is real-time as of the time that it shows up on your screen. To refresh, you would use that small circular arrow here, and I suggest that you would want to do that before you actually click submit on that trade, because you want to make sure you're placing it on the most up-to-date information possible. So Apple in the US market, and then my order type, I want to do the drop-down menu and do the buy. I want to buy the stock. If I was holding, I could also do the sell. If I was, if I had sold the stock short, I would buy the cover, or I could also sell the stock short. So we're not going to cover those two for today, but we'll do the buy for today. So the buy or sell. So I'm going to choose buy, and I'm going to go over and put in my quantity I'm looking for 100 shares of Apple. I type that in into that box. You can also use the tab keys to move between the different categories here. So I'm actually using my mouse, but you can also use the tab key or the reverse tab key as well. So my price type, I want to do, we can do the market limit. You can do a stop price, a stop limit, trailings and trailing stops. Right now I'm going to use a limit. Now a market price is where I am willing to buy this particular stock where the market is offering it. And recall we talked before that the seller, the lowest price that someone is willing to sell it is on the ask side. So here's where I see the ask price of 161.33. I want to buy. So if I want to buy, I'm going to, at the market, I'm automatically going to be buying at 161.33. And I see that the sizing there is 100. That's 100 times 100. So there's 1,000 shares available there. Great. Lots of shares available for me. I'm only trying to buy 100 shares. So if I could do a market buy, it'll be going at 161.33. But you know what? Today I don't know that that price is going to be there. Stock is going down 58 cents, and I suspect it's going to go down. So I want to do a limit price of 158. I feel it's going to come down to 158. And you know what? I don't. It's now what 1:46 in the afternoon. I'm probably going to need a little bit more time for this to happen. So I'm going to actually go with a good through order, and I'm going to select a date sometime into the future. You can go out to 365 days into the future. ScotiaTrade now allows you to go out 365 days. I'm just going to go to September 29th for today. So I'm placing a buy for my Apple 100 shares at a limit price of 158. I'm going to have that order good through until September 29th. Now, when I did the drop down, you might have noted some other terms there. So the day order, if I wanted to do a day order, that order then would expire at the end of today's trading time, which is 4 p.m., if it did not fill. If it filled, of course, then the order is completed. But a day order will expire at the end of that particular trading day if it is not yet filled. The extended hours order is when you want to place the trade so that it participates in the pre-market and the aftermarket. So the pre-market, and this is only for U.S. stocks, the pre-market would be from 8 in the morning till 9:30 when the regular market opens, and the aftermarket starts at 4 o'clock and goes to 5:30 after the actual regular market. So when you click on the extended hours, it'll participate both in the pre-market, in the regular session between 9:30 and 4 p.m., as well as the after hours market, which is from the 4 to 5:30. So it gives you a little bit more time in which your trade can get filled, especially if, let's say, for example, Apple was having an event today, and that event was happening, after the market closed. You can actually capture your trade information from that point as well too. So that's the extended hours. The good three we spoke to. Maximum is when you want to place your trade for the longest possible time, the 365th day, but you don't want to spend time trying to find out what that is. You just press maximum. We will actually input that actual 365th day on your behalf. So it's a little good feature that you can use as well. Now, the last part here is the all or none. The all or none is a restriction on the order. I basically want my 100 shares filled at one time or none at all, especially if you're placing a larger order of 1,000 shares, or you're placing an order of 150 shares. You don't want to get just 100 shares filled and the 50 shares left outstanding. You would do this all or none. Click on that. Give me my whole 150 shares or nothing at all. Keep in mind, when you've done that, your order priority is at the very, very bottom. Anyone else that comes through wants to buy 100 shares at a limit price will actually go ahead of yours because yours has a restriction on it. So orders without restrictions get right into the market. Orders with restrictions take last place. But there are some caveats that we just talked about. This is only also available for U.S. stocks. If it's a Canadian stock here, you'll note that this all or none feature is not available for us, okay? Just keep that in mind, only for U.S. stocks. So I've got my Apple stock, I've got my order input. I want to now preview that order. Keep in mind, as you can see, my balance was a negative, so we know we're going to get an error message here. So bear with me here. As it previews, it goes through, looks in my account, and it says your account has insufficient equity to complete this trade. Oh dear. All right, so what I'd have to do is go and populate my account, make sure I have enough funds, and then I can place my order in there. what I wanted to show you before I actually transition from this order is another way of placing your trades. I don't know why this thing is here, but nevertheless. So here's another way of placing your trades. We've got a floating trade ticket. You'll notice that these icons will float at the bottom right corner of your screen, regardless of the screen that you're on. So I'm going to just transition back over to the Quotes and Research tab just to show you how this feature works. I'm looking at that time. I see I've got another 10 minutes, so I want to drill down into this part just to show you how this works here. The floating trade ticket. Great new feature that Scotia iTRADE has provided. It allows you to place your trades with much more efficiency, much more intuitively, and I'll show you exactly why. On the Quotes and Research tab, as I go into, I'm going to look at the Microsoft, for example, MSFT, type that in there, and as I type that in, it'll give me my drop down. And once I get that drop down, I will just click on that, and it'll give me my Microsoft stock. Here we go, Microsoft trading in the US account. So I just click on that here, and then of course that'll bring up my trade, my quote. So it's trading 74.56 US. It's up $1.16, 74.55 to 74.56. The size is 41 by 31, 4,100 shares by 3,100 shares, and a lot of volume, 10 million shares available. So I want to buy this particular stock. I click on my buy button, and you'll notice the floating trade ticket automatically opens up and pre-populates with the Microsoft stock, the current quotation that we've got there, and this is real time as well. And then, of course, it asks for the access code. When we're placing a trade, one of the protective features that we provide is for you to input your access code. It prevents others from misusing your account, but it also helps you a quick check to make sure that you are putting in the right information. So I type in my access code here. Great, there it is. If you don't have an access code, or if you've forgotten your access code, you just click on the link here. It'll take you to another page, create your access code, and then come back and place your trade as well. First information then, I grab my US account because now I'm looking at Microsoft, and I just realized that actually, and you may have noted that in one of your comments here to me, I wasn't checking a look at my questions, but I noticed I was looking at Apple on my Canadian account. My apologies, that should have been the US account. So I know I'm doing Microsoft in the US side of the account, so I'm going to click on my US account here. Suffice it to say, I still don't have any funds in my US account. As you'll see in a moment, it'll show up in the cash balance and the buying power here. So then I'll go then into the order type. How many shares am I looking for at this point? Well, I just want 100 shares to buy, and I want to place it at a limit, but once again, we get the options: market, limit, stop, stop, limit, trailing stop. I want to just place a limit order for Microsoft, and my price, the current price is 74.55, bidding 55 to 56. So I'm going to buy it at I'm going to buy it at 55 and see if I can get it. So I'm going to go with 74.55. I'm going to go for the day because I've got that price right at the bid. So hopefully I can get that for today. I don't want to do an all-none order because I want to get it right now if I can, and I'm going to preview that order. So unfortunately, I still don't have enough funds in my account, so it gives me that error message. But you get the idea now here that you can actually use this floating ticket here. Whether you're on your Quotes and Research page, whether you're on your accounts page, and you can actually no, we don't want to save anything here. Whether you're on your accounts page, the information here carries with you whatever page you're on, so that you can actually see how many shares I've got in my account. I want to sell those shares. You don't have to go back and forth anymore. Your floating ticket will actually float on top of the page. It does cover the stuff on the below it, but you can always minimize that. You can actually minimize the ticket, look at the stuff below, and then open it back up again. It'll pop back up here in a minute. The reason why it's a little bit slow is only because of my my server is slow. But this happens in real time. It's very, very fast. So you can actually minimize the ticket, see if there's any information being hidden behind, and then click back on it again. It'll open up the ticket. One of the beautiful things with this floating ticket is you can view your status right then and there on the same screen. You don't have to go anywhere else. You just click on View Orders, and you can see exactly the status of your order that you've just placed, if you've placed one order in there. So this is the floating ticket. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to also show you is the stop. a stop limit, and a stop. Those are some great questions here. We've got just a little bit more time, but let me just go very quickly on this here, and we'll use Bank of Montreal here. This is in Canadian. And for now, I want to do, I'm going to mock up a sell. Let's say, for example, I held 100 shares of Bank of Montreal. It's on 100 shares. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to place a stop loss order on the 100 shares of Bank of Montreal. And let's say, for example, I had purchased this position at 75 bucks. The stock has gone up to 88.91 now, and I want to make sure that I can protect the gains that I've made without having to keep an eye on the market. So I'm going to set up a stop order on this. Stop. Oh, let me grab my account here. Okay, this is interesting. It's not letting me select my stop. So I do apologize on that. I've got some bandwidth issues here. That's okay, great. Sorry. So on the setting up a stop, the Canadian markets no longer allow a regular stop loss. You only can do a stop limit. My apologies there. So for Bank of Montreal, I want to set up a stop limit. I purchased the stock at $75. It's now $88.91. I don't want it to go back down to $75 and lose all the gains that I've made. So I'm going to place a stop price here. If this stock drops down to $85, I want it to be triggered as a sell. When it triggers, it'll trigger at the limit price that I'm looking at here. Okay, so trigger this thing. If it drops down to 85, trigger a sell for my 100 shares of Bank of Montreal, and trigger it, sell it as long as it's above $84. So here you have your stop price. Here you have your limit price. You would set in, of course, your term, a day order or longer. Get through. If this was a U.S. stock, then you can actually do a stop, an actual regular stop. When you're doing a stop, it doesn't provide you with a lower limit. So basically then when I want to do a stop on a U.S. position, I would actually put in my stop price. So in the U.S., it's trading at $73.27. I had bought it at $65. So I want to stop out at $70. So when the stock, if the stock was to drop back at $70, it would trigger my sell for Bank of Montreal at, and it just goes through at market. Whatever price it hits the market at is whatever it would sell at. So that's a distinction between a stop and a stop limit. A stop, when it triggers, goes through as a market order and it sells immediately. A stop limit, when it triggers, it inputs the limit price that you've placed there into the market, and that's where it goes in. As long as the stock is trading above that limit price, then you're good to go. So that's one of the great features in which you can use to protect yourself, to protect your gains. I want to show you a couple of other things just before we go here. And so I'm going to transition back over to my slide presentation where I have some other tools that I can show you very quickly, and then we can wrap this up. Let me go back to the slide presentation. Find that here for you. For some reason, it takes me a couple of times. Ah, there it was. Here we go. Okay, great. So let's take a look then at some of the other features that I have here that I want to just quickly show you. One of the other things that you can do with your account, once you've bought a position into your account, in this particular case, showing on my screen the Vanguard FTSE, it's a REIT, real estate investment unit, trading on this Toronto Stock Exchange. But you can actually set up a DRIP. So this particular position will provide a dividend. When that dividend is the cash dividend is deposited into your account, you can set up what is called a dividend reinvestment program or a dividend purchase plan. A dividend reinvestment program, or DRIP, is where the company itself provides the feature. If they don't, and the company does provide a dividend, Scotia iTRADE will actually allow you to set up what they call a dividend purchase plan. So the dividends that you get are then automatically reinvested back into the stock at no commission. So that's a great way of dollar cost averaging and keeping the funds in that stock, so that your cash doesn't come into your account, sit there as cash. It'll actually be automatically reinvested back into the stock. How to set up? How to set up the dividend? The dividend or the DRIP or the DPP. So you would basically, there is an actual, let me go back to the screen. On the stock to the far right corner under the quick menu, you would just simply click on that enroll in DPP or enroll in DRIP, and it'll bring you to this particular screen where you can enroll the Vanguard in all the accounts you have or in a particular account by dropping down here. Click on the enroll in DRIP, and here we go. Click on this as well too, across all the accounts. We give you the terms and conditions, you submit, and bingo, it's done. The next day you'll see a small little D beside the position, beside the stock, to tell you that you've actually enrolled your stock in the account. As suggested at the beginning of the presentation, it is now 2 o'clock on the hour. Scotia iTRADE has practice accounts, so we suggest that you open up those practice accounts to actually take a look and to practice those questions. You can buy and sell equities and options risk-free. You can track your profit and loss. You can research stocks and access market news. So great features for the practice accounts. We suggest strongly that you actually do that. Great. So you can now then navigate Scotia iTrade's website and Scotia Online. You can find the tools and resources that are available to you. You can place a trade. You can explain the different price types, and you can view the holdings in your accounts. So don't forget to open up your practice account and to access it from your account's overview page. So I'm going to, it's 2:01. I'm going to just take a look at the questions, see if there's any questions available. But as you exit the webinar today, I will load up a short survey. So we suggest that you quickly just give us a quick result there as to how we did today with the webinar. If there's any other information or knowledge that you'd like to get in investing, just leave those comments in there. We'll take a look at those for you. So we appreciate that anytime that you can provide. There's a couple of webinars that I want to just mention going up is the Horizons ETFs on September 12th, next Tuesday, September 12th, building an ETF portfolio. Now, ETFs are a great way to have a diversified portfolio by just buying the ETF. So this is a great presentation that you might want to take advantage of. And then on Thursday of the same week, the market guys will be talking about the 10 biggest mistakes that can be made when you're starting out your investment journey. As we had talked about before, you can actually find the education tab on ScotiaITrade.com and the events calendar just below the education tab as well too. So without further ado, let me just take a quick look here for any questions that may have come up. I see that there is 5 questions. Can you do your own graphs in technical analysis? Great question. So on the chart tab is where you would do your own graphing and include some of the technical analysis, the technical criteria on that chart. In the technical analysis tab, Recognia does all the heavy work. So they do all the graphing and the trend lines and stuff like that. You simply have to click on whichever ones that you're looking for in that technical analysis tool. So Robert, that's the question. You can do the graphing on the chart tab, or in technical analysis, you just use what they've given you there. Andrew, are there any tutorials or pre-recorded sessions or hyperlinks on how to open a new account? Great question. That getting started guide will actually address that question for you. If you want to just go through that, we actually speak to that, and that learning module will actually cover that for you. So great question. Robert, are there any extra charge for placing any type of stops? Beautiful questions. These are actual order types, so there's no additional cost to placing different types of orders. Your commissions are charged only on a fill. You have to either be buying or selling and get a fill on the buy or the sell. I've now bought 100 shares or I've sold 100 shares. Only when you get a fill will you have a commission. So the different type of orders won't matter. If you have to change your order a number of different times, that also won't result in a commission. Only the actual fill will result in a commission. Any in-house classes for getting started? Prem, beautiful questions. If you're in the downtown area, you can drop by our Investor Center, which is at 44 King Street in the Concourse area. Simply come into the Scotiabank. You can ask the Scotiabank tellers there, but it's just downstairs in the Concourse area, and they'll actually give you a great demonstration on how you can get started in your account. Or you can go into any Scotiabank branch, and they can assist you with that as well too. On using the platforms, yeah, Prem, using the platforms, come on into the Investor Center, and we can definitely show you how that can be done. That's downtown Toronto. Prem, last question. With the DRIP, can we have a systematic investment plan integrated? A systematic, so No, the DRIPs and the systematic investment plans are separate. You first would have to purchase the stock and then enroll it in the DRIP plan. So one of the other questions to keep in mind too, Prem, is that when you purchase additional shares of a particular position, if it's in the DRIP, then those additional shares will actually be included. So separate, but not quite. So as long as you've enrolled in a DRIP, that systematic plan will continue to increase your stock and increase the actual DRIP feature. Quick thing to mention to the full group here is for a DRIP, you have to actually have enough dividends to produce or to purchase one full stock. If you don't have enough cash from the dividend to purchase one full stock, then we don't purchase any stock at all. We just put the cash in the account, and that is not going to roll over to the next dividend period. It's just going to stay as cash. So just keep that in mind. You need to have sufficient cash or sufficient shares to generate sufficient dividends to purchase at least one share. Beautiful. So there we have it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience. I've run over time, and I do apologize. Let me just quickly upload the handout for you so that you can actually grab that on your way out. This will just take me a few quick seconds here on this. Beautiful, and it's uploading as we speak. Great, so the file is uploaded. Click on the handout menu, and you'll see the file there. Just download it to your computer, and you'll be good to go. If you don't get the link tomorrow for this webinar, just give me a quick email shout out, and I'll be able to send you that link directly. So on behalf of Scotia iTRADE, I would like to thank you for your time today. Thank you for your patience. I hope this was valuable information, and hope that you've gained some confidence in using the tools and research. And I look forward to seeing you in one of our future upcoming webinars. I suggest you take a look at some of the many ones that we have as we go forward. Have a great afternoon, and you take care. See you soon.